Hello guys, according to the data collected by the German intelligence, Russia is getting ready to start a war with NATO before 2030. I know you don't want to believe this is real, just as I didn't want to believe Russia will start the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in the 21st century. But unfortunately, they are very violent, very irrational, and Putin desperately needs to continue wars for the security of his regime. By 2026, the size of Russian army will exceed 1.5 million people, and that is in times of colossal losses on the front lines in Ukraine. They are prepared to spend more than 6% of their GDP for the support of the armed forces, and most importantly, on the official TV channels, they constantly speak about the need to destroy Germany, the United Kingdom, the United States, and particularly every EU, NATO country, and of course, traditionally America. Because no matter how much Trump compliments Putin, Russia can never treat the freedom, the market of the United States as something they can accept. So let's talk about these plans, how realistic they are, and what can we do to prevent this war, and yes, most importantly, defeat and demilitarize Russia, because this is exactly what we need in Ukraine, and this is exactly what will protect your countries from the war that Russia can launch. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the collapse of the Kremlin and Putin in The Hague, subscribe, we will discuss that on the channel sometime soon. It is not the first time that foreign intelligence services report about the future war against NATO to which Russia is preparing. This time news were coming from Germany, but once again the United States speak about that. The British intelligence traditionally speaks about that, and most importantly, our Ukrainian, Polish, Lithuanian, Finnish experience proves Russia is definitely getting ready for something bigger. And by 2030, they will be prepared to attack one or two NATO countries. You may say that the attack on one country means that all the alliance will respond. I am not that sure, and I believe that many of you share my concerns. With Trump as the president of America constantly repeating that everyone is obliged to the White House, it may be very likely that he will withdraw from NATO before Russia attacks NATO, or he often says that there are a lot of problematic zones, for example, the Baltics, and NATO may not react. Honestly, Russia has already tested NATO countries. Russian drones and missiles crossed the borders of Poland, of Romania, they provoked Finland, they provoked the Baltics with their ships, with various operations in the seas. Right now, they also talk about the Arctic, and they did not get a serious response from these NATO countries. Compare that to the reaction of Turkey when Russian bomber crossed the Turkish border. It disappeared immediately because it was neutralized. No one was afraid of the escalation, because the escalation is not when you destroy a foreign object in your borders, but actually when that foreign object crosses your borders. I don't know what's wrong with the world that people are afraid to protect their own countries because Russia can get angry. You have to be angry that Russia crossed the borders of your countries and actually potentially could hurt your people with its drones or missiles. It's quite understandable that being poorer, with lower GDP in general, with other problems, Russia cannot fight against all NATO countries. But once again, look at this fear, look at these concerns, look at the lack of leadership to some extent. They truly believe that if they attack, let's say, the Baltics or Poland or something else, the reaction may be weak and not lead to the start of this full-scale NATO defense. Unfortunately, the Article 5 is constantly undermined, especially by Trump talking about this future potential dangers. Please remember to share these videos if you share my opinion and subscribe to the channel. That is very important. So, Russia needs war. This is the main thing that many people do not understand, including the negotiators from the United States, for the regime's security, for the explanation of their poverty and misery, and also because millions of people are already involved in the military industry, in the military service Russia wants to continue. Another great mistake that many analysts, journalists, politicians make, they don't watch Russian TV. I know it's very toxic, it's very bad. If you watch it as an ordinary viewer, don't do that. But if you are a professional, if you are a diplomat, a military expert, you need to watch it, because in times when Lavrov may pretend respect to the White House new administration, their real speaking mouths, I mean people who transmit the messages directly from the Kremlin, keep repeating that, of course, Ukraine is not the main target, it is just the beginning, it is a testing ground to undermine the unity of West, to paralyze NATO, to quarrel people and then to continue. And you know what is both disgusting but at the same time interesting, that each Russian propagandist, I mean those top propagandists, has his or her own country that they want to destroy, and they keep stressing the need to destroy. For example, Solovyov always talks about Germany and also Britain. He says that these countries are the root of all the problems on the planet. Contrary, for example, Kisilov speaks about the United States and the need to turn it into the ashes. Simonyan also is more concentrated on Britain. And there are other bad people saying very obvious things. And once again, returning you to my Ukrainian experience, I also did not believe it was true when they said really bad things about Ukraine, undermine the existence, the legitimacy of the largest country, which they actually acknowledged when the Soviet Union collapsed, and our history, our state history is 1,000 years longer than the one of Russia. It seemed just like nonsense, you know, some crazy people saying some crazy things. But no, now I can tell you, my main message in this video perhaps is, don't judge Russia based on your normalcy bias, based on your system of values, on your system of, I don't know, normalcy, checks and balances, because Russia is irrational. It's a broken country. And I share more of my civilian observations on a new channel. Subscribe. And the new video is tomorrow. But right now there are already 2 good videos where I share my emotions on the first day of war, and also advice of what you need to put in a go-to bag in case of emergency. I don't wish anything like that to happen, but we have to be realistic. German intelligence, British intelligence, other intelligences, and my personal Ukrainian experience and intelligence tell me Russia does want to continue wars with NATO. And it's better to be prepared, especially in the context when Trump shares very similar thoughts when he speaks about the sovereignty of Canada. These are not jokes, they are not funny. He says it intentionally, and all of his administration repeats that. I don't mean to frighten you, I don't mean this will happen tomorrow, but this is very wrong, and it tells something about the attitudes of the new American administration. The same about Denmark and Greenland. And do you believe that a president, an American president with such attitudes towards his neighbors, his allies, will actually fight against his idol, the best dictator from Trump's perspective, Vladimir Putin, if he attacks, for example, the Baltics? I am almost sure this will not happen. So what can we do in this situation? Of course, it's much better to defeat Russia while still in Ukraine. We are determined to do that. After these 3 years of very violent, full-scale war, look at the Ukrainian people. We want to defeat Russia. We don't want to surrender. It's Trump who wants to make us surrender, but we don't. We keep fighting, and all you have to do is just back us up. And this can save a lot of countries from future Russian invasions. The best peace plan for all Europe, for all the world, is to defeat and demilitarize Russia. But I'm also interested in your thoughts. Do you think it's likely? And what do you think is the most dangerous part of Europe for the next Russia's attack, if it happens, if we fail to defeat it? But I believe we won't. So my perspective is that it is a Suwalki corridor. It is Poland, Lithuania, Russia, Belarus. And once again, I'm very concerned that a lot of NATO countries, especially the commander of the United States, Trump, will pretend nothing happened. But I am very optimistic, not just about Ukraine and Zelensky. We are determined to protect not just us, the country, but our task, our mission is to defeat Russia, and somehow it perfectly coincides with the security and defense of your countries, your borders, and your people. And I want to say our people, right? Because all the people who stand for democracy and freedom, we are a community. And also, I am very optimistic about MACRON, MERZ, STARMER. They demonstrate very strong position and they are not prepared to compromise, and that makes me feel better and stronger. So let me know, what do you think about this future perspectives, and most importantly, what must be done, and what is the most dangerous part right now, apart from Ukraine and of course Russia, because we have returned much of the Russian war back to where it belongs. This is karma. Remember to subscribe to my other social media platforms: Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and Discord. Check our merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!